Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today, I am going to talk about something many people think about but don't always say. Have you ever thought, don't read because reading is so boring? I know it sounds strange, but I am sure at some point you might have felt that way. When you pick up a book, you might wonder if it's going to be too hard or too long. Each page might seem endless, and the words might feel too difficult to understand. It feels like reading takes a lot of energy, doesn't it? Many people feel the same way, especially when they are beginners, and that's totally okay. But let me tell you something, this feeling doesn't have to last forever. You can change how you feel about reading. Trust me, it's possible to make reading fun and even exciting. But before we get into how to make reading enjoyable, let's first understand why reading can feel so boring in the beginning. When you start learning a new language, reading can feel like a huge mountain that you need to climb. The words may look strange, and you might not understand them right away. Your brain works hard to make sense of all the new words, and that's what makes reading feel like a challenge. This is especially true for beginners. You want to understand every word, but sometimes the books are just too complicated. You may start reading but then stop because the words are too hard to understand. The sentences feel too long, your eyes get tired, and you lose interest. It's normal to feel this way. In fact, many people feel frustrated when they can't understand a story or the meaning behind the words. Think about it. You may spend hours trying to read a book, and when you're done, you may not even remember half of it. That can make you think, why even bother? The words seem like they don't belong together. The sentences feel like they're dragging you through mud. It becomes boring because you feel like you're not making progress. Sometimes the stories in books might feel too far away from what you know. They talk about things you've never seen or experienced before. When you don't connect with what's on the pages, it's hard to enjoy reading. It feels like the book is not for you. You can't see yourself in the story, and so you lose interest quickly. You might even skip through pages, hoping to find something more exciting. But it never comes. The whole experience leaves you tired and feeling like reading is not for you. And you know what? It's not just beginners who feel this way. Even experienced readers can feel bored when a book is too hard to understand. But the difference is that experienced readers know how to push through the difficulty. They know that it's just a matter of finding the right book, the right pace, and the right mindset. Beginners, however, might not have learned this yet. Now you might be thinking, okay, so reading is boring. What can I do about it? Well, here's the good news. You don't have to stay in the boring zone forever. You can make reading fun. You just need to know how to approach it. Let's think about the way you would approach a new skill. When you learn to play a game or ride a bike, you start small. You learn the basics first, and then you build on it. You practice, you try again, and eventually it gets easier and more enjoyable. Reading works the same way. Instead of diving into big, difficult books right away, you can start small. There are books out there that are designed for beginners. They're simple and easy to understand, with shorter sentences and fewer difficult words. These kinds of books won't make you feel overwhelmed. You can start with them and slowly build your way up to bigger challenges. The key is to make sure that you pick the right book that fits your reading level and interests. For example, have you ever read a picture book or a children's book? They are a great place to start. The sentences are short, and the stories are simple. The pictures help tell the story, and they make reading feel more fun and less like a task. These books are not only for kids. They can be perfect for beginners who are just starting out. Picture books can also help you connect with the story because they use simple language and everyday topics that you are familiar with. Another way to make reading interesting is by reading what excites you. If you like stories about adventure, try reading books that are full of exciting journeys. If you love animals, try books that talk about pets or wildlife. When you read about things you like, reading won't feel boring at all. You will feel motivated to turn the pages and learn more. The trick is to choose books that make you feel happy and curious. This way, you won't get tired, and you'll keep coming back for more. Don't be afraid to start with books that are easy for you. It's okay to read simple things at first. Everyone has to start somewhere. The important thing is that you keep going. The more you read, the better you will become. And before you know it, reading will no longer feel boring. It will be fun, exciting, and something you look forward to every day. So now that you know why reading might feel boring, let me ask you. Do you struggle with reading? Do you find it hard to keep going, especially when you don't understand something? I want to know your thoughts. Please comment below and let me know why you think reading can feel boring. Together, we can figure out how to make reading fun again. Have you ever picked up a book and thought, "This is so boring, I just want to stop"? You're not alone. Many beginners feel the same way, but let me tell you, this feeling is normal. When you're just starting to read, everything can feel difficult and confusing. You might ask yourself, why is reading so hard? Why can't I just understand the words easily? Well, let's take a closer look at why reading can feel so boring in the first place. When you begin learning a new language or skill, it's not easy. Your brain needs time to get used to new words, sounds, and ways of thinking. Reading a book in a new language, especially English, can be like running a race without being ready. You might stumble over words, miss the meaning, and feel tired very quickly. This is what many beginners face when they start reading. It's frustrating because your brain is trying so hard, but it feels like you're not making much progress. The first reason reading might feel boring is because the words are hard to understand. You know the alphabet. You know how to sound out words. But sometimes the words just don't make sense together. This is because many books have words and phrases that are not used every day. They might use long, complex sentences that are hard to follow. When you don't know the meaning of a word, it can make you lose focus. This makes reading feel slow and boring. It's like you have to work so hard just to understand a few lines. This can make you feel like reading is not fun at all. Another reason why reading can be boring is that books often talk about things you don't know or care about. Sometimes the stories in books are not interesting to you. You may not relate to the characters or the events that happen in the story. If the story is about something you don't understand or find exciting, your mind will start to wander. You might even feel like the book is too far away from your own life. You might think, why should I care about this? This lack of connection between the book and your own world can make reading feel even more boring. For example, if you pick up a book about a topic you're not interested in, you might find it difficult to finish it. The story could feel dull, and the words might feel like they're just sitting there on the page without any real meaning. If you feel this way, it's okay to stop reading and try something else. Reading should be enjoyable, not a task that you have to finish just because you started it.
Have you ever started reading a chapter, and after just a few sentences, you feel tired? The sentences in some books can be so long and packed with information that you lose track of the story. You might have to read the same sentence over and over just to understand it. This can be exhausting. When reading starts to feel like a puzzle, it's no wonder that it seems boring. Your mind needs to keep jumping from one idea to another, and this can make the experience of reading feel like work instead of fun. It's not just about understanding the words either. When books have too much information or too many characters, it's hard to follow. Beginners need to start slow. Too much information at once can overwhelm the brain. Imagine reading a book that introduces 10 characters in just the first chapter, and you can't even remember their names. It's confusing and makes you feel like you're missing something important. This confusion takes away the joy of reading. And then there's the problem of motivation. You might start reading a book, but after a while you feel like giving up. Sometimes you're not interested in the story, or you feel too tired to keep reading. You think, I'll read later, but later never comes. This lack of motivation is common among beginners. It's easy to lose focus when reading doesn't feel rewarding. The more you struggle with reading, the more you want to stop, and the more it feels like a boring task. But here's the thing. It doesn't have to stay like this. Yes, reading can feel boring at first, but once you understand why it feels this way, you can do something about it. The good news is that reading doesn't always have to be difficult. There are ways to make it easier and more enjoyable, and that's what I want to show you in the next chapters. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think the words in the books are hard to understand, or do you feel like the story doesn't interest you? Please comment below and tell me what you think makes reading boring for you. Your thoughts are important, and together we can find ways to make reading a fun experience. Remember, reading doesn't have to be boring. With the right approach and the right books, you can enjoy reading and get better at it. Stick with me and we'll discover how to turn reading into something exciting. Now that we understand why reading might feel boring, Let's talk about how we can make it interesting. The good news is that reading doesn't have to be boring, and it can actually be fun. There are many ways to turn reading into something you enjoy, even if you've struggled in the past. So how do we do it? Let's find out. First, one of the easiest ways to make reading interesting is to start small. You don't need to dive into long, complicated books right away. If you're a beginner, it's important to choose books that are simple and easy to understand. Picture books or books with short, easy sentences are perfect for beginners. They're a great way to build your confidence. You can start by reading just a few pages every day. Little by little, you'll find that reading becomes easier, and you'll start to enjoy it more. Don't worry about reading a thick book all at once. Instead, focus on the little steps. Each time you read a little, you're getting better. Another way to make reading more interesting is by choosing books that are fun and exciting. If you pick books about things you enjoy, reading won't feel like a task. Think about your interests. Do you love animals, sports, adventure, or mystery? Whatever excites you, there's a book for it. If you're interested in a subject, the story will keep you hooked. You'll feel more motivated to read because you want to know what happens next. So don't just pick any book. Pick one that you're excited to read. Books that match your interests will make the whole reading experience much more enjoyable. Sometimes when reading feels boring, it's because the story doesn't connect with you. Maybe the characters are too far from your world, or the situation doesn't feel real to you. In this case, try books with characters or settings that you can relate to. Reading about a character who is going through something similar to what you've experienced can help you feel connected to the story. You'll find that the more you relate to what's going on in the book, the more interesting it becomes. Whether it's a character learning something new, overcoming a challenge, or facing an adventure, books with relatable stories make reading feel more real and less boring. Another way to make reading exciting is by changing how you read. Sometimes reading aloud can make the story more engaging. When you speak the words out loud, you become a part of the story. You can imagine the sounds, voices, and emotions that go with the words. It's like you're acting out the story yourself. Reading aloud also helps your brain remember the words better, so it's a win-win. Plus, when you read aloud, you get to enjoy the rhythm of the language, which can make reading much more fun. If reading still feels a little slow for you, don't be afraid to use tools that can help. For example, you can use a dictionary to look up new words that you don't understand. Knowing the meaning of a word right away can keep you from getting stuck and losing interest. You can also use online resources or apps to listen to the audio version of a book. Hearing the story read out loud can help you follow along and understand better. Listening to a book while reading can also bring the story to life in a new way. It's like having a story told to you instead of just reading it silently. This combination of reading and listening can make the process more interactive and fun. Another way to keep reading interesting is to set small goals for yourself. You don't have to read the whole book in one sitting. Instead, try reading a chapter a day, or even just a few pages. Celebrate when you finish a chapter. This gives you something to look forward to, and it makes reading feel like an achievement. Over time, these small goals will build up, and before you know it, you'll finish the whole book. It's like playing a game where you win by reading. One last tip to make reading interesting is to enjoy the process. Don't rush through the book just to finish it. Instead, take your time when you read. Imagine the scenes in your head like a movie. Picture the places, the people, and the action. The more you imagine, the more the book will feel like a journey. You might even find yourself looking forward to the next time you read just to see what happens next. Remember, reading doesn't have to feel boring or like a task. You have the power to make it interesting by choosing the right books, using fun reading techniques, and enjoying the process. It's all about making reading a part of your life that you look forward to rather than something you avoid. When you start enjoying reading, you'll find that it becomes easier to pick up a book every day. So let's not let reading be a boring thing anymore. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What do you think could make reading more interesting for you? Do you have a favorite way of reading that makes it more fun? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. I can't wait to hear what works for you. Remember, it's not about how quickly you read or how many books you finish. It's about enjoying the story and having fun while reading. Stick with me and we'll explore more ways to make reading an exciting part of your life. So far, we talked about how reading can feel boring and how we can make it more interesting. Now, let's dive into one of the most important parts of reading, choosing the right books. When you pick the right book, reading becomes enjoyable and it helps you learn faster. But if you choose the wrong book, reading can quickly feel like a task, and that's not what we want. So what are the best books for beginners? Let's start with one of the best types of books for beginners, picture books. You might think picture books are just for children, but they can be perfect for people who are new to reading. Picture books use simple words and have illustrations that help you understand the story. The pictures give clues about what's happening, so even if you don't know every word, you can still follow along with the story. This makes reading feel less overwhelming. Picture books are easy to understand, and they let your imagination grow. You can enjoy the story while looking at the colorful pictures, making it fun and easy. But don't stop at just picture books. Short stories are another great option for beginners. Short stories are usually only a few pages long, and they focus on one simple idea or event. This makes them easier to read because they don't have too many characters or confusing plot twists. With short stories, you can enjoy reading without feeling lost or overwhelmed. Plus, you can finish a short story in one sitting, which gives you a sense of accomplishment. When you finish a story, you'll feel proud, and that motivates you to keep reading more. Now, let's talk about easy-to-read novels. There are many novels that are written specifically for beginners. These books use simple vocabulary, shorter sentences, and easy-to-understand themes. You don't have to start with the most difficult novels. You can find books that are written for young readers or for people who are learning English. These books are designed to be easy for beginners to understand. You'll still get to enjoy a longer story, but without the frustration of hard words and long sentences. Look for books that interest you, whether it's a story about a young adventurer, a funny situation, or a fantasy world. Whatever excites you, you can find books that fit your level. Graphic novels are also a wonderful choice for beginners. Graphic novels combine pictures and text to tell a story, which can make reading even more engaging. The pictures help tell the story, so you don't need to understand every word to enjoy it. The visuals make the story feel real, and they give you something to look at while reading. This can help make difficult words easier to understand because the pictures help explain the meaning. Graphic novels are full of action, adventure, and fun stories, which makes them perfect for beginners. They also keep you interested because they feel like you're reading a comic book, but with a deeper story. If you love nature or animals, non-fiction books about animals or the world around you are great options. These books use simple words and give interesting facts that can expand your knowledge without making you feel bored. Non-fiction books can teach you about science, nature, history, or even other countries and cultures. These books are a great way to learn new things while improving your reading skills. Plus, they are usually written in a clear and simple way, so they are easy to understand. Non-fiction books can be especially fun if you find a topic that you are curious about. Whether it's about space, the ocean, or animals, there are books that teach you something new with simple words and fun facts. Another great option for beginners is books with repetition. These books are written with a focus on repeating important words and phrases throughout the story. Repetition helps you learn new words and remember them. When you see the same words again and again, you start to recognize them and your vocabulary grows. Repetition also helps you understand the meaning of words in different contexts. These types of books are excellent for building your language skills because they focus on teaching you words in a way that feels natural. This way, you can learn without feeling like you are memorizing a list of words. Lastly, books with themes you care about are perfect for beginners. The more you care about the topic, the more you'll want to read. If you love animals, find a book about a pet. If you enjoy adventure, choose a book about traveling or discovering new places. You can even try books based on movies or TV shows that you already like. When you read something you enjoy, it's much easier to stay interested. You'll want to know what happens next, and that will keep you turning the pages. So, how do you pick the right book? The best way to start is by asking yourself, what do I enjoy? Do you like stories about animals? Are you curious about outer space or history? Do you want to read stories that make you laugh or feel excited? The more you pick books that match your interests, the more fun reading will become. Also, choose books that are written in a way that is not too difficult for you. Don't worry about reading the thickest, hardest book out there. Start with books that match your reading level and challenge you just a little. Over time, you'll find that your reading skills improve and you'll be able to handle more challenging books. Before you choose your next book, take a moment to think about what interests you. Whether it's a picture book, a short story, a graphic novel, or a non-fiction book, there's always something out there for you. And when you find the right book, you'll see that reading isn't boring at all. It's an adventure waiting for you to explore. I'd love to hear from you. What kind of books do you enjoy? Do you have any recommendations for beginners? Please leave a comment below and let me know. Let's share ideas about the best books for learning English. Remember, Picking the right book is key to enjoying reading. Stay curious and keep exploring new stories. With the right book in your hands, you'll never want to stop reading. Again, by now, we've discussed how to make reading more enjoyable and how to pick the right books. But there's one thing that many readers struggle with, especially beginners staying motivated. It's easy to start a book, but what happens when you feel tired, bored, or distracted? How do you keep going when reading feels tough? Now we're going to explore ways to stay motivated to read, even when it feels challenging. First, let's talk about setting small goals. One of the best ways to stay motivated is by breaking your reading into smaller, manageable pieces. Instead of thinking, I have to finish this entire book, try thinking, I will read 1 chapter today, or I will read 10 pages today. Setting small goals makes the task feel less overwhelming. It's easier to start reading when you know you don't have to finish the whole book in one sitting. By achieving these small goals, you'll feel proud of yourself, and that feeling of accomplishment will keep you going. Over time, these small steps will add up, and you'll finish your book without even realizing it. Another great way to stay motivated is by reading regularly. It's easy to put off reading if you don't make it a habit, but when you read every day, even if it's just for a few minutes, reading becomes a normal part of your routine. Try setting aside a specific time each day for reading. Maybe it's in the morning with your coffee, or maybe it's before bed. Whatever works for you, stick to it. The more you read, the more you'll start to enjoy it. It becomes something you look forward to, not something you force yourself to do. If you're struggling with staying focused, find a quiet space to read. Sometimes distractions can make reading feel harder. If you're reading in a noisy room or with the TV on in the background, it can be difficult to concentrate. Try to find a quiet place where you can focus completely on the book. It doesn't have to be a big space. Even a corner of a room will do. Make sure the space is comfortable with good lighting so you don't get tired too quickly. When you're in a peaceful, quiet space, it's easier to enjoy the book and stay motivated to read more. Another way to stay motivated is by rewarding yourself. Everyone loves a good reward. When you reach a reading goal, treat yourself to something small that makes you happy. Maybe it's your favorite snack or a fun activity that you enjoy. For example, after finishing a chapter, you could reward yourself by watching a short episode of your favorite show. This helps keep your mind positive and connected to the idea of reading. You're teaching your brain that reading brings good things, which will encourage you to keep reading. If you find yourself losing motivation to read, try reading with a friend or in a group. Sometimes, having someone else to read with can keep you excited about a book. You can read together and discuss what happens in each chapter. This makes reading feel more social and fun. You can also join a reading group where you can talk about the books you've read and learn from others. If you have a friend who also loves to read, you can challenge each other to finish books or share your favorite stories. It's motivating to have someone else join you on your reading journey. Another important tip is to choose books that you enjoy. When you're reading something you love, it's much easier to stay motivated. If you pick books that interest you, the reading process won't feel like a task. Instead, it will feel like an adventure. If you like mystery stories, find a simple mystery book. If you like fantasy, choose a book about magical worlds. When you're excited about the topic, it will be much easier to keep turning the pages. So make sure that you choose books that make you curious and excited to know what happens next. Sometimes staying motivated means taking breaks. If you're feeling tired or bored, don't push yourself too hard. Take a short break and come back to your book when you're ready. Sometimes, just a few minutes away from the book can help clear your mind and refresh you. You can even try reading different types of books to keep things interesting. If you're tired of one book, try a short story or a graphic novel for a change of pace. Keep things fresh to avoid getting bored. It's also important to remember that you don't have to finish every book. If you start reading a book and find that you're not enjoying it, it's okay to stop. There's no rule that says you have to finish every book you start. The most important thing is that you enjoy reading. So if a book isn't making you happy or it's too hard, find something else that you like. There are so many books out there, and you will find something that excites you. Lastly, remember that reading is a journey. It's not about how quickly you read or how many books you finish. It's about enjoying the process and learning along the way. Be patient with yourself. If reading feels slow at times, that's okay. With practice, you'll get better and reading will become something you enjoy more and more. Celebrate the small victories along the way and know that you're improving each time you pick up a book. Now, I want to hear from you. How do you stay motivated to read? Do you have any tips or tricks that work for you? Please leave a comment below and share your thoughts. Let's help each other stay motivated and keep reading. Remember, the more you read, the better you become. Stay consistent, set small goals, and find books that excite you. With time, reading will feel less like a task and more like a fun adventure. Stick with it and you'll start to love reading in no time. As we come to the end of this podcast, let's take a moment to look back at everything we've learned. We started by talking about how reading can feel boring, especially for beginners. It's not uncommon to feel frustrated or tired when you don't understand the words or when the story doesn't connect with you. But here's the truth. Reading doesn't have to be boring. It's all about the right approach and choosing the right books. And now, after learning all these tips, you'll see that reading can actually be enjoyable and fun. Remember, the first step in making reading interesting is to start small. Don't worry about reading thick, difficult books at the beginning. Instead, begin with picture books, short stories, or easy novels that match your interests. These types of books will keep you engaged and excited to read more. It's important to find books that you can relate to, books that speak to your interests. If you like adventure, choose an exciting story. If you enjoy animals, read about pets or wildlife. Whatever you choose, make sure it's something that makes you want to keep reading. When you enjoy the book, reading will never feel boring. And don't forget the power of simplicity. Reading can feel difficult at first, but with practice, it becomes easier. Break down your reading into small, achievable goals. Aim to read a few pages or a chapter each day. Celebrate your progress as you go. Don't try to rush through it. Take your time and enjoy the process. Each small goal you achieve brings you closer to becoming a stronger reader. The more you read, the better you will get and the easier it will become. Another great way to make reading interesting is to change how you read. Try reading aloud. When you speak the words, it adds a new layer to the experience. You can imagine the story in your head as if you were acting it out. You might even start to feel like a part of the story. Listening to audio versions of books can also help. If you listen and read at the same time, you'll understand the story better and keep your interest high. Staying motivated is another important part of becoming a reader who loves books. Set small goals and make reading a regular part of your day. Whether it's reading for a few minutes in the morning or before bed, keeping it a daily habit makes a big difference. You don't need to force yourself to read for hours. Even reading just a little bit every day helps you get better. Find a quiet, comfortable spot to read and make it a special time for yourself. It will be easier to stay focused and enjoy the story. And remember to reward yourself. Celebrate each milestone you reach, even if it's just finishing a chapter or reading for 10 minutes. Reading with a friend or joining a reading group can also keep you motivated. When you have someone to share the experience with, it feels less like a solo activity and more like a fun adventure. You can discuss the story, share your thoughts, and learn from each other. If you don't have a friend who enjoys reading, consider joining an online reading community. There are plenty of groups where you can talk about books and get suggestions from other readers. Lastly, never forget that reading is a journey. Don't worry about how fast you read or how many books you finish. It's all about enjoying the experience. Be patient with yourself and celebrate the small victories. Every time you read, you're improving your skills and becoming a better reader. It might take time, but remember, you don't have to be perfect. You just need to keep reading, keep learning, and keep enjoying the stories. As we wrap up, I want to encourage you to start reading today. Choose a book that excites you and make reading a part of your routine. Don't wait for tomorrow. Start now. The more you practice, the better you'll get, and soon enough you'll see how much fun reading can be. Before we end, I also want to remind you that I have uploaded several videos on my channel that can help you improve your English skills. Feel free to check them out when you need extra support in your learning journey. I'd love to hear from you. What's your favorite book to read as a beginner? What tips help you enjoy reading more? Please leave your thoughts and comments below. I'm excited to know what works for you. Reading is not a boring task. It's a chance to explore new worlds, learn new things, and have fun. So pick up that book and start reading today. Happy reading, and I hope you enjoy every page of your journey.